at Time Investment. So Scott joined Time Investment in 2018 and has been helping many of our dealers to achieve their selling goals. And he has almost 3 decades of experience in consumer finance sales. And today he's here with us to share how to leverage financing to close more deals, and especially in the home improvement industry. So thanks for joining us today, Scott. How have you been?
I've been doing great. A little bit chilly over here in Pennsylvania.
Well, Scott, can you tell us a little bit about your journey working in consumer finance sales?
Yeah, I started back in 1990, which it just seems like such a long time ago. Started with a company called Green Tree Financial, and we did mobile home loans. And I started as a collector and worked my way up to dealing with the contractors or the dealers that sold the mobile homes right to the customers that we would give the money and lend to. And after that, I went to the Associates Finance Company, which was one of the largest finance companies in the world at the time. And that's where I got the base of my education in financing. And about 7 years after that, I moved to the East Coast in 1999, ran some successful correspondent lending home improvement companies only to take care of the financing needs for our contractors. And in that time, I met Mike and Tom and John Hafman, and we stayed through contact throughout 4 or 5 years. And an opportunity came up to join a company that shared the same values I had to take care of contractors and make them number one in the business relationship. And that's how I got to come to Time Investment.
Very cool. And it sounds like with this experience in the construction industry and seeing all these changes, and I think the economy today, you mentioned starting off in mobile homes. I think the mobile home industry right now is booming. You have rising housing prices, and there's more mobile home parks being built than ever. And seeing a lot of loans go into that industry today, which has been, I think, particularly interesting. And Scott, we know that the market has been changing a lot over the last couple of years, which has brought me to this point and seeing these fluctuations. Now, which economical condition would you say is the best to sell financing? So, down market, up market, inflation market. What are the variables that you're thinking of?
Right. Well, the nice thing about it is home improvement construction, and it's kind of one of those climate market. You have to do it at all times. If some like an inflation market and a down market, a lot of customers are not going to sell their homes, because they can't get the value that they want for it, and so they can't get the money they want for their home. So they're going to hunker down and basically take out a loan to get the siding or the windows or the roof, so they can enjoy their home for the next 3 to 5 years, what they want. If it's a booming market, they still need home improvements, so they can go ahead and get the windows in, so they can sell their home, or they need a new roof, they can sell their home. So the nice thing about it is home improvement is a pretty safe bet always, and the different types of financing that go along with it will help the contractor during those up and down markets.
Yeah, very true. And I think especially today when we look at home improvement, what we're seeing is that as interest rates rise, then there's more incentive to invest in the home that you have today. And along with that, if the price on your house is not rising as much and you add new construction to it, well, for different states, they have different property tax liabilities. And if the price on your home is not changing too much and you add new construction to it, well, your property tax is still going to stay relatively low. And I think that's a huge bonus of adding some new construction.
Correct.
Now, when we think about leveraging financing options to make a sale, it's all about the way you really position it. And I've gotten some great insight from you and other people on the time investment team of how this happens. And sometimes the best option, from what I've heard, is to offer a higher rate and long term to a customer over the lowest rate possible, and which costs a fee to the salesperson ultimately and the dealer. And now, why is that the case, and why would you go down that route?
Sure. So, like in today's climate, especially when you're out there talking to a customer, there's a couple of ways uh, to sell or offer the financing to them. And one is in an inflation market with everything basically being doubled, same as cash loans are just not as attractive as they are when it's an up market. And the reason for that is typically the interest rate goes from 18 to 30%, and the term of that loan is about 5 to 6 years. So you can have a same as cash loan that would have a $290 payment for 5 years with a 25% interest rate, or you would have 11.99% rate, which, as you were saying, there's no fee to a dealer, and the payment is $143.41. And then over the life of the loan, which is called the total of payments, if you go with 11.99 fee or 11.99% interest rate at a 10-year term, your total of payments is $17,209. If you go with a 5-year 25% rate, it's $17,610. So the big thing is you're paying anywhere from 7 to 12% as a dealer fee for the same as cash, which is coming right off of their commission or coming out of the bottom line to the company, or at 11.99, it's typically no fee to them. So you're offering a great service to the customer. It's an affordable payment, and it makes the company more money.
Yeah, ultimately, I mean, it's about that customer experience, and if that customer experience works for both parties, it sounds like, that's what it comes down to. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
exactly. And that's
now
where the salesperson has to really, ask and figure out where the customer wants to be and where they need to be. And in today's market with the inflation, having a $287 payment or having a $144 payment, that's it's almost probably almost a no-brainer in today's market. Where they're going to go with it.
yeah, very true. And diving a little bit deeper into the subject, when we think of revolving versus installment in terms of payment, which option is better for customers and which option would you say is better for dealers? And can you walk us through some of the pros and cons for each of those?
Certainly. Um, Revolving is an open-ended line of credit. And what that means is you can have a $10,000 loan. They give you a payment factor to pay the loan back. Uh, but that's only if you pay the exact amount of what you're due. You're never late. You don't have late fees. You're not 5 days behind. That if it's a 5-year term on an open-ended loan contract, it can maybe stretch out to 5.5 years, maybe 5.6 years. So it's nice for dealers because it's an open-ended line of credit. So they may be able to go back to a customer and sell them something as long as they have that credit available. Typically on the revolving, it pays off much slower than it does on a installment closed-end loan. And another thing that contractors don't realize is that when they fund or they get the company to approve and fund a loan for a customer on a revolving contract, it sometimes adversely hurts their credit, because if they have a $10,000 home improvement loan that's on a credit card, the credit, the credit reporting agency, if it's $10,000 on a revolving line and it's a $10,000 loan amount, it will, bring the credit score down a few points, just
Mhm.
because they're maxing out their credit. In a closed-ended loan, the nice thing is if it's a 10-year term, it's going to pay off in 10 years. If they make a
Mhm.
late payment or if they're slow here and there, it is designed to pay off in 120 months. And the nice thing about that is it goes to the credit report. It doesn't affect their credit. It only helps their credit because it's an installment loan and it's a higher limit. And as long as they pay for it, it's going to come down, relational to how many years it's on there. And it does, there is the benefit of, helping your customer out in the long run. And so,
Yeah, 100%. That makes a lot of sense. And now, when we think of the customer and we think of how do we get them to, I say, look at what they're trying to complete ultimately with their projects, and we want to help them as much as possible. And that brings me to this question: is should as salespeople offer financing on every deal to try to get them to complete those projects? And how does the closing rate work with financing Compass with the cash customers closing rate?
sure. So, I've dealt with many, many, many hundreds of contractors, and I'll make a phone call to them and say, hey, my name is Scott Awesome, calling from Time Investment. I would love to see how we can help you make more money for your company. And the first question is, do you offer financing? And a lot of times they'll say, no, we don't ever want to offer financing. It's too hard. It's too complicated. And I'm like, okay. And then I appreciate that, your mindset on that part of it. And then my next question is, do you have 100% closing ratio? Every person that you see, do you get a sale with them? And of course, they're going to say no, because that doesn't happen. And, the benefits of this is, if you offer financing to every single customer, you're just going to get someone to say just because you're asking everybody. You don't even have to you don't have to proposition it that well. You don't have to ask them about an interest rate. Just, hey, do you want to pay cash, or we can offer you financing? 5% of the people are probably going to say, yeah, we want to take the financing. Over time, over the last 30 years, if you offer financing, you will close 15 to 20% more business by just offering it. And, the whole thing is, if you don't ask for something, you're never going to get it. And, so I always tell salespeople, we can always take cash, but we also offer financing, which, would you like a $115 payment, to pay this off? And, a lot of times, to springboard off that is, when a customer tells you they're going to pay cash and, they never call you back, they probably went with somebody that offered them financing during that project that they were talking to them, and they went with that company because they could afford $115 over $10,000 instead of a $10,000 check out of their pocket.
It makes a lot of sense. And when I think of like putting myself in the customer's shoes, and if someone just tells me, sure, we'll just take cash, and I'm like, maybe this is all they do. Maybe they don't offer financing. And then if you start talking about financing, you're like, oh, okay, I see this. They offer options that can be specialized to my needs. What else do they offer if they can specialize to my needs? And I think going in with that idea of like, hey, we can personalize this experience to you and what you want, rather than you just saying like, hey, I want this because maybe that's been what you've told that you need, and you don't really, and you still have to discover like your problems and needs, and we can then get you exactly what you want. I think that's where it's at.
Yeah, and there's an interesting fact out there, is that 85% of the world has less than $10,000 in their savings account.
Wow.
So if free money to go do a project. So when you stop and think about it, they may have a 401k, they may have, a retirement benefits, but a lot of people don't have a lot of just cash sitting around. And a lot of successful companies have right on their websites, we offer financing. If you go to, I would say, the top 500 companies, in these different remodeling magazines, of those 500 people that are in that top 500, 495 of them probably offer financing. And again, as to jump off what you said, is if they're looking at the website and they see that there's financing offered, then that it plants a seed in their head that, hey, they may have an option for me, and that can, help me afford the project that I would like to have.
And I think it's so important for people to be able to take a bet on their future and say, I see myself completing this project. I see myself becoming this person and helping enable that. Um, when I think someone wants to complete a project, it's that point of, hey, I'm not where I want to be. I need to get this done. And bridging that gap is so important. Now, I know we talked about a lot of things. So before we close, do you have any further considerations or any advice that you'd want to share with dealers?
Yeah, there was one that kind of comes to mind. A lot of contractors ask me, well, my customer says they're going to pay cash. They're going to go to their bank and just pay cash. And, a lot of people want to go do that. And they use that, I don't want to say excuse, but they use that to maybe tell a contractor, I need more information from you. Because no one ever wants to say they can't afford a project. And so they may use different techniques to say that. But in today's market, with the inflation being where it's at, going to a bank used to where you could have a 6% rate, or you could have a home equity line of credit that would be at 3 or 4%. And today's unsecured lending at a bank is anywhere from 10 to 15%. And always they're going to have a shorter term. Like we can offer 11.99% interest rate, but we can extend the term out to 144 or even 180 months to where that home improvement project becomes affordable. And when you go to a bank is a very conservative marketplace, correct? They want the best of the best. They're going to give you the best rate they can have, but they're going to keep it on a very short term so they get their money back quicker. With us, I always tell contractors and salespeople in the home, that's wonderful that you have an opportunity to go get the funds for this. And I try to give the knowledge to the salesperson, consider what market you're in. In today's market, the discrepancy between our rate and their rate is not very much. And the benefits for them to use a finance source like us is that we can get them in, from the time they start inputting an application until the time they sign the documents in the home that evening is about 10 to 12 minutes. They can start the project typically 2 to 3 weeks before they do when they go to get their money from a bank, because they typically got to go to the bank, they got to fill out all the documents, they got to go to the bank and close. And in today's market or today's climate, it's very hard to get both you and your husband or the couple to the bank, take the information, wait for the approval, come back again to do the closing, and then wait to get your check, and then get it together with the home improvement company. And so I always try to tell them, if you want your business to pick up, offer the financing, get them under contract, and it allows them to order the product 2 to 3 weeks earlier, and will allow the customer to be more satisfied at the end, because they're going to have their product in their home faster than the next person.
Yeah, so true. And being able to work with a company like Time Investment that can really just take a look at all your needs and your situation on an individual basis, rather than like grouping you into with everybody else, I think makes such a huge difference. And not feeling like that you have to call the support number every time you're trying to get a hold of somebody, I think is also, one of those type of things, is night and day. I think customer experience and customer service in this case is really just makes such a big difference. Now, Scott, I want to thank you go for it.
Yeah, I was just saying that's the reason why I came into Time Investment, is from the top to the bottom. And I shouldn't say top to the bottom, I should say from our leader to everybody else that's part of this team, is focused on the dealer relationship. Without a dealer and having a relationship with them, this company couldn't have been around for 40 years. And that right there speaks volumes. How many companies have been around for 40 years and has had, success, and we are still growing. And we're pushing forward after 40 years to be, bigger and better, and become, better with our technology. But the one thing that we will never lose is that personal touch with the contractor, because it really comes down to what is the relationship with that individual and help take care of the most important part of your business. So I just wanted to reiterate that from you. We do really, really want that. And it's a very helpful for all our contractors.
Well said. Well, Scott, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing your knowledge with everybody watching. And thank you, everybody who decided to join us today. And if you have any questions, make sure to go ahead and comment below on this video, and we'll go ahead and answer them. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if that's where you're watching it from. And that way you can keep up with everything that we're talking about and learn more about consumer financing and working with a partner that can really help you out. And with that said, I'll go ahead and see you on the next webinar that we do, where we'll cover many other subjects that are super important and relevant to the industry that you want to build in and the products that you want to complete. And again, Scott, thank you so much. And we'll go ahead and rock and roll from here.
I think you have a great day.